Hi, welcome back to Engine Shop Joe. And today we're going to talk about the phone call that no one wants. Well, here, let's see how it all started. Engine Shop Joe here. We're putting a set of injectors in this thing because it's regenning every about 7 hours. And it's got a new filter in it. The filter's only 2 months old. I took a look at the history and it's not any good. It's got almost 19,000 hours on it, so everything else is checking out okay on the data log. So we're going to throw a set of injectors in it and see how it goes. So you'll get to watch. So after he put the injectors in, the truck's out running, and I called Jake in a couple weeks, and he goes, "Yeah, no problems. Everything's running good." So then I never should have made that call, because a week after that, I get a text from him, and this is what's in the text. Now, before I got this text, I got a call from him, and he said, "The driver just called me. He's out on his route, and he's only got 5 pounds of oil pressure at idle, and the red light is on his oil pressure gauge." And 2.5 weeks ago, we put injectors in that. So I said, "Has the truck been there since we put injectors in it?" He said, "No." And I said, "Has anybody checked the oil level?" And he says, "Probably not." So I told him, when a truck gets back, I want you to do the following. Now, I'm going to stop talking for a minute. I want you to look at the faults. Think about what you would tell him. Pause the video, and then restart the video, and I'll tell you what I told him to do. So, of course, the first thing you want to do is panic, right? Because you're thinking that the oil pan's full of fuel, and you're wondering if the guy spun a bearing or whatever else. So the truck gets back to the shop, and he sends me this screen print of the faults. So the first thing I see, I look for the count, the fault that has the most counts, and it's 135. Engine oil rifle pressure 1, sensor circuit voltage above normal or shorted high. And then I see 435, engine oil rifle pressure erratic, intermittent, or incorrect. So that makes me feel a lot better right off the bat, because usually if you have low oil pressure because there's a problem in the physical oiling system, you're not going to have faults for sensor circuit voltage shorted high or shorted low. And then also, you could have 435 if you did have a physical oiling problem, but usually not with fault code 135. So this is what I told him to do. First thing, let it sit 10 minutes, then check the oil, make sure it's not over full. Now, when we put the injectors in, I had him change the oil and oil filter before it left his shop. I had him put in a new air filter before it left his shop. Okay? Second, I said, call the driver and ask him if the engine ever missed because of that 1654, misfire cylinder 1. And the driver said, nope, it did not miss. So I was thinking, well, maybe that 1654 occurred when it was learning the injectors. I wasn't sure. But it's 1 count, it's inactive, I'm not going to worry about it. The oil level was at the correct level, just a little bit below full. When he put oil in it, I told him, make sure you do not go to the full line, go a little bit lower than the full line. So that was good. Then I told him, I want you to pull the plug out of the oil pressure sensor and see if there's any oil in it. And there was. So I told him to buy an oil rifle pressure sensor, and he did, and he cleaned the plug out with contact cleaner, put the new sensor in, started it up, the oil pressure was okay. I had him do a regen, and at the end of the regen, the oil pressure was okay. The light was off on the gauge on the dash, and the oil pressure was looking good. He gave the truck back to the driver the next morning. The driver took it out, drove it half a day, called him at lunchtime and said, everything's good, the oil pressure's normal, I think it's fixed. And so the phone call that no one wants, I got, but when does something break, right? The oil pressure sensor failed, and that was the entire problem. See you next time on Engine Shop Joe.